Welcome to my first video inside the Introduction to the Linux Command Line presentation. Inside this presentation, we're going to go over some concepts like what is a kernel and what is the shell, the Linux concept of how everything is a file. We're going to be talking about a lot of file system operations and the commands and how to use them, like removing directories, creating directories, changing directories, listing out the directories, and creating new files, and copying files, renaming files. And then we're going to go over how to view files using cat, less, more, and editing files using nano, v, vim, and being able to search keywords in files using grep. My name is Austin Bell. I have a Linux CompTIA certification, as long with my Network Plus, and I'm a cybersecurity student at my local community college. So the first question I have to ask is, what is a shell? Well, the shell mainly interacts with the kernel, and the kernel's main job is to manage processes and interact with your computer hardware, like your memory and your processor, and also with like storage devices, so hard disk drives and SSDs. The kernel interacts with user applications and acts as an interface between those applications and the hardware itself. And inside the Linux philosophy of everything being represented by a file, we can actually view a lot of hardware information with files in the file system hierarchy. So in the proc directory, we'll be able to see a lot of files that we can actually view memory information, like your memory information called suitably named meminfo. We can actually see like the total amount of memory available, the cached memory, the swap cached, and basically anything to do with memory inside that. We can actually see CPU info, it's like what kind of processor running. I see right here, model I'm using Intel Core i7-3820. And let's see what else we got inside here that I can show you. I want to see what this is real quick. Swaps. Oh yeah, this shows you the swap file. It shows you the priority here, which this is called a nice level, which basically gives the priority of applications through, I think, -20 to 19, something like that. The higher 0 is like the default. And we can see the uptime of the system. By doing that, we see it's been up for around, I think, 9,000 seconds, 10,000 seconds or so. We can see devices. These are a lot of the devices up. See TTY, which is a teletype terminal, or the terminal. Well, we can go over TTYs in a later video, but for now, I want to focus on file system operations and how we can view files and make directories, subdirectories, and all that good stuff. So let's go over the bash prompt real quick. So this right here is our username. And if we type in who am I, we can see that I am a user named user. And the next one is the host name. If I type in host name, I am at the host user-virtualbox. See that right there? This is called the tilde expansion. And this essentially means I'm going to print out the output of what this means. And I'm inside the home directory and the subdirectory user. So that I'm just in my home directories, in essence. And then right here is the privilege. So a $sign is a non-privileged user, so I am not an administrator. But if it is a hashtag or a number sign, that will denote that I have root access. However, in most Unix and Linux systems, we use something called sudo, which is there's many names for it, but I think the common name is superuser do, which it will temporarily grant administrator privileges to the user that is inside the vsudoers file. Anyways, let's continue on. So one of the first commands I would like to talk about is the pwd, which is the path present working directory. We went over this a couple seconds ago. I'm inside the home and user. I'm inside the home directory under the users in the user subdirectory. And people usually think that people usually see like file systems as folders, and they're essentially the same thing. So these are actually kind of folders, but in Linux we say directories. So I'm going to try my best to say directories and subdirectories. I have a force of habit to say folders. That is just because I used Windows for a long time and I switched over to Linux. So, and it's just a force of habit, really. Anyway, so the ls command lists out the directories of, it lists out the directory contents essentially. So we see we have a file called output.txt, and if I do the file command do output, we can see that it is an ASCII to text file. So we're going to actually view this file later, but for now we can do the file command to see what this file is, and we can see that it has .text here. Linux doesn't really have file extensions, so I can just like rename this file to just output, and it would still be an ASCII to text file. So a lot of common options to do with the ls command is ls-l, which is a long listing directories, and this gives us a lot more information about the subdirectories and the files inside the directory. So right here we have the file permissions for this file. So the first three is the owner of the file. The next three is the group permissions of the file, and the last one is basically anybody else, which is the other. So you have the owner, the group, and the others. And so right here we see this is the owner of the file. So this is the user that owns it. So this can be like root, or this could be another user named like Bob or something. And this is the group. So this file has read, write, and execute permissions for the user. It has read and execute permissions for the group named user, and everyone else can read and execute this file, or this subdirectory, I guess. And another one is that we can do ls-a, and so we see that we have more files here, or directories here also, because the ls-a, the -a option with the ls command lists every single file. And so what this does is, you see this dot right here? This dot states that it's a hidden file, or hidden directory, or file. So you wouldn't normally see this unless you do the -a option. And we're able to actually combine these options and do ls-la. So we combine the functionalities of both the -l and the -a command or option, so we can do a long listing of all files. And if you want to clear your screen, you can type in clear, or you can do Control L to clear. That's a little shortcut that you can do. So in order to make a new directory, we can do the mkdir, which stands for make directory, and I can do just name it test directory. Do ls, and we can see that we have a new directory called test directory. In order to change into that new directory, we can do cd test directory. Now we do the PWE, which is the present working directory. I'm inside the home directory, the user subdirectory, and the test directory subdirectory. So these two dots that we just did is going back one space inside the absolute path. So I did the cd dot. So now I'm at the user subdirectory now. In order to remove a directory, we can do the remove rmdir or remove directory. And then we can do test directory. This will delete the directory from the current working directory. But there's an alternative way to do that. So we're going to make the directory again. And I'm going to do rm-r test directory. And that will also remove it. But if I try to do that without the -r option, it wouldn't let me do that. But why is that? Well, it's an empty directory, and it will not allow you to remove it unless you specify the -r option. Or you can use the rmdir command, which will actually remove an empty directory. If we actually look in the manual for the rm command, you can see right here, which is recursive, remove directories and their contents recursively. This will allow you to do it regardless, or you can do the -d, which is to remove empty directories. So let's try that command out real quick. Oh, I already have it. So let me do that, and that will allow us to delete it, like so. So one of the next commands I'd like to talk about is the tree command. The tree command, actually no, let's not actually talk about the tree command. I want to talk about the touch command. So let's look at the man page for touch real quick. It's basically says change file timestamps. But you can also just create a file using the touch command. So I can do touch test file ls. We see we have a file there. And I am looking at the wrong one, aren't I? Alright, let's continue talking. So we can, there's a couple options here. I've mainly used it to make files for some reason. But yeah, so you can make a file with the touch command. We can do file test file. It's an empty file. We don't have anything inside it, so we're actually going to do some operations in that. But first, let's actually rename that file by using the mv command. So we're going to make a directory just called newdir. I want to move that file to newdir, so I'm going to do mv, which is the move command. So let's actually look at the manual right now. You can move or rename files with this command. There are a couple of options that you're given. Really, the only option that you would use this command would be the -v, which it will tell you what is being done. So if you do mv-v dot, which just means that this dot is inside the current working directory, and every directory is usually with a / inside Unix. Windows, it's / for some reason, but in this current directory, I want to move the test file command into the current working directory. Test. Okay. Let me make the new directory real quick. Okay, I already have a new directory. Okay, so I just want to make sure. So I want to move the test file into the new directory. So with added verbosity, we can see that okay, so we renamed this file into this subdirectory. So we can actually ls into that new directory, and we see that the files inside. So I've listed the directory outputs inside our current working directory into the new dir, which is the subdirectory in our current working directory, and we have the output of that is test file, and that file is not located in our current working directory, which is our home folder, or home directory, as I should say. Now, in order to, you can clear the terminal by typing in clear or doing Control L. Now, I want to copy that file back into our home directory, so we can use the cp command. So let's look at the main page real quick, see what kind of options that we have here. The most common options you would probably use is the recursive. So recursive means, like, if you have a directory, you can copy basically this entire directory and all the subdirectories and files inside that directory. So let's make a new directory and call that I don't know, recursive, right? I'm going to cpr new dir into the recursive directory. I want to change my directory into that recursive directory now. ls, we see, so we're at the home, user, and recursive subdirectory. And I want to ls what's inside the new dir. Now we see test file. So yeah, so with the cp command you can copy files and directories. And I want to just move back the test file, which is, I want to move that back to our home directory. So I am inside the recursive directory, and this is inside the new dir, this file is inside the new directory, inside the recursive directory. So I want to move cp inside our current directory, new dir, test file, into, remember this tilde, bring it back. This is the home directory, so I want to copy that back there. So I want to cd back to my home directory, and then list out that directory, and we see the test directories back there. So hopefully this will help you actually learn how to teach you to navigate the command line pretty easily. Now we can actually do the tree command, and we can do the dot, which means in our current working directory. So we see this is the output. Let's look at the results of what happens. So we see this is actually our directory right now. So I have some things in my downloads folder I didn't know I had. I guess I was using this for something else. So the desktop, documents, downloads, and anything inside our downloads folder is right here. You just scroll down, and now we see the new dir, and we see the test file right there. We see the recursive directory, we see the new dir subdirectory, and now we see the test file. And then we see the test file inside our home directory. So this is the tree command. It's basically helps you visualize directories. Let's actually clear the terminal. And that concludes our file system operations. So honestly, just mess around with it, get the hang of it, get the feel of it, and eventually you'll be pretty proficient at it if you just keep practicing. Honestly, it just takes practice. I'm gonna take a sip of my canned iced coffee right now. But so since we made files, right? How do we view files? So we have a couple options. We can have a couple of terminal text editors. A couple of terminal text editors. That's a mouthful. Terminal text editor. Say that 5 times real fast. A couple of terminal text editors that we can use. One of the most popular ones, I would say, is Nano. So I open Nano. We're in Nano. This is the text editor. It's all within the terminal. So if I minimize out of here, it's gone. But let me open it back up real quick, right? So we can make a new file, right? Be hello, I am using Nano text editor. In order to save this new file that we just opened up, we can do Control S, and then we see at the bottom right here it says file name to write. So right here we're going to be writing the new file name. Since we haven't specified a file to write, since we haven't like opened a previous file, we actually have to designate it a file name. So I'm going to name this nano text, right? Enter. Now we wrote 2 lines to the nano text file that we just made by doing Control S, which is save. Now we can exit by doing Control X. And now let's list out the directory, and we see that our new nano text file right here is there. So we can do file nano text, and we see it has ASCII to text. Now, you see how I didn't have to type in the entire thing right there? This is a command line trick known as it's tab. I forgot the name actually, but if you press tab, right? So let's type in N. Press tab, nothing's showing up. But you have to be kind of specific. So if you just do N, it's not going to show up because we're not being specific enough. So if we do like doc and I press tab, we see it's there. But if I do D and press tab, we can see all the stuff beginning with D, which is desktop, documents, and downloads. Just a little pro tip to add. But let's get back to actually viewing files now. So in order to view this file in the terminal without opening up a text editor, we can do the cat command. Cat stands for concatenate, and basically cat is perfect for like really small files that we'll be able to output out. If we do nano dash, then I want to do tab so it auto completes. And we see the contents of the file, and it says, hello, I am using nano text editor. Yeah. That's essentially what it does. It outputs the file, the contents of the file. There's another text editor that we can use. It's called V. This is a ancient text editor. Oh, it's kind of weird. It went automatically to Vim. Okay, so we're not going to talk about V now. We're going to talk about Vim. So Vim is a ancient text editor from like 1997, and you're not going to like it. So it has a couple of modes that we can use. So if we press I, we can go to the insert mode, and then we can start typing, right? And so we press escape, and we see in the bottom left corner, once we press escape, we're out of exit mode. This is essentially just like a viewing mode that we can do. So let me just say this is a new line. Enter hello world. And then I'm going to press escape. If I try to type now, we can't do anything. Unless if I type in something that allows me to insert it. But we can actually navigate Vim by going up and down by using J and K. H and L to go left and right. We can go to the end of the file by doing capital Shift G, or go to the beginning of the file doing double tap G. And then we can go from each word, or each word by doing W to go forward and B to go back. I don't expect someone to start using Vim right out of the box, as it is very complicated and annoying. So the only thing you should know for the Linux Plus exam is to know how to quit without saving and to right quit. So if we do shift, if we do the colon, and we see in the bottom, we're down here. In order to exit out, if we want to save and quit, we'll do W for write and Q for quit. and we see we opened up Vim without specifying a file name. We're going to do new file, do ls, and we see we made a file called new file. And if we want to exit without saving, so let's actually type in, I am going to not save this file. If I do the colon Q and exclamation point, we quit without saving, and let's do cat new file, and we see that the line that we just wrote was not there because we quit without saving by doing the colon Q and exclamation point. All right. And that's pretty much it for a lot of viewing files. We can do less and more. Here we go. This is perfect. All right, so we can grep something out of here. So I want to find anything that has kernel in it. And then, so we see that kernel, anything that has to do with the kernel keyword is highlighted. And then we can do less, pipe that with less. And then we can see like, okay, so we see some systemd log messages here. So I can use grep to kind of separate what I want. So if I say like, oh, I want to find some like, just some logs, this have to do with systemd. And then we see that we can filter it out by using the grep command. Or like, if I want to get really specific, like, I think something went wrong with one of my drivers and I want to grep, find anything to do with the mod probe, which is you can add new kernel drivers by using the mod probe command. And so you can just use that to filter out stuff inside a file. And so if you want to be able to view like the entire file and scroll through it, you can do this in two ways. So you can output this command, this file, and then pipe it to less as input. And we can scroll through it by using the D and W command or the arrow keys. So using D and W, we'll be able to scroll through that. Another way to do is to less dmessage. It's the same thing. Or you can do that, which we're using dmessage, and we're using the output of dmessage as input for the command less. If we want to edit this, we can use vim dmessage, and then we'll be able to load this up into a text editor and edit it. I can't write it because it is we see it's owned by root and the group ADM. It's just another administrator group, and we don't have the permissions to actually modify that because we are not root. And if we would like to, we would have to escalate our privileges to root. So using this as an example, we'll be able to view like the top. If we want to just view the top couple lines of that file, and do head, use dmessage as input, use dmessage as output, and redirector as input for the head command. And we see only the top couple lines are there. We can do -n or 10. We can specify, like, let's say we want to view the first 30 lines. We see the differences between the default, which is 10 lines, I believe, and we can do the -n, and then we can do 30 lines. So we can view more, and the same thing applies to tail. But the tail is the bottom. So this is like the bottom 10. We do dash 15. Then we can wait. Yeah. So we can see we can do dash n and then see 30. We can see the bottom 30 lines. I think by default for tail is 15 because this is the same amount of lines as before. But this is just how you can view files using the head and tail command. Yeah. That's how you basically view files and change file permission or do file system operations like make new directories, make a new file, list out directories, change directories, view directories instead of directories using tree, copy files. And that's basically an overall lesson of how you can view these files. grep is how you search for keywords. It's mainly used in a pipe where you take the output of a command and use that as input for another command, or you can use it by doing just grep in this directory dmessage and then specify the keyword. So let's say we're going to do systemd. So we do grep the keyword and then the file. Or we can do kernel, specify kernel. It's all about input and output, really, inside the Linux command line. And once you understand input and output, which we will go more in depth about standard input, standard output, and standard error in a future presentation. But that's the general gist of it. I just practice around in it, do some research, and eventually you'll understand and you'll be pretty good at it. It just takes consistency and time to get good at it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side. Peace out.